Diane Allen joins Stan Borman tonight at 11 on Channel 3's Eyewitness News.
This is NBC.
One out of 5 pregnancies ends in miscarriage. To the question why, there are few answers.
If you're a Major League Baseball scout like Howie Hake, searching Latin America for the next Fernando Valenzuela, and you've just signed a kid who can run and hit and throw, you've done a good day's work.
Now we go to the local bar, wherever that is.
Bob Jones University is not your normal college campus. People here are conservative, Christian fundamentalist, and convinced that their school is the way to salvation.
Now, it's a matter of whether a child wants to go to a government school and be washed with some green slime out of hell, or to come here and to a Christian school like this and be washed with the pure water of the Word of God.
He's not a rock and roll superstar. He dresses and looks like an overweight, middle-aged banker. But he's one of the greatest blues musicians of all time, Mr. B.B. King, the king of the blues.
From NBC News, correspondents Garrick Utley, Jack Perkins, Douglas Kiker, and Betsy Aaron, reporting on the NBC Magazine.
Good evening and welcome to NBC Magazine. Tonight we're going to take a look at miscarriage. It's a common word, but an unhappy event, which usually happens to someone else. Well, it would be nice if that were true, but it's not, because 1 out of 5 pregnancies ends in miscarriage, the premature delivery of a fetus before the 28th week of pregnancy, before the fetus can survive on its own. At least 300,000 couples lose a child early in pregnancy each year. The emotional trauma suffered by both the wife and the husband can be severe.
And, you know, since you were in high school, that was your life, that you were going to get married, go to the apartment, buy the house, have the little boy, then have the little girl. And we've all found that it doesn't work that way at all. There's no timetables when you're waiting to have a baby. Not anymore.
These women are wounded and grieving, women who have lost children through miscarriage. The recognition that people need to grieve over the child that was never born is new, and so are groups like PROP, parents reaching out to parents, reaching out to listen and to provide emotional support. These members in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania have been through it all.
I think we're about the only group that think of our pregnancies in terms of weeks. You know, you mark it on your calendar. Oh, I've completed week 12. You know, how far along? Oh, about 2 months. No, I'm 12 weeks.
Well, I've hit week 12 twice. Never got past week 23.
Before, it seemed like he used to have a preference on what type of child we'd like to have. And now it's just a child, any child.
Despite the fact that miscarriage is so common, couples are shocked when it happens to them, and even more stunned when they can't find out why it happens. Obstetrician Dr. Robert Eckenberg.
Most of the time we don't know why it happens. At least 90–95% of the cases. It's not a preventable kind of a situation.
Your patients come in here armed with myths up to the ceiling about why it happened. They lifted something too heavy, they ate the wrong foods. What about those myths?
This is a real problem. And unfortunately, as professionals, we often perpetuate a lot of those myths. Somebody calls on the phone and says, I'm 6 weeks pregnant, doc. I'm spotting. I have a little bit of crampiness. What do I do? So what do we as professionals normally say? Take it easy, lie down for the weekend, don't go to work, don't play tennis, don't swim, don't do this. So we tell them all the do's and don'ts, and in our heart, we really don't think that any of those things are going to cause the miscarriage.
There is little research dealing with causes of miscarriage, what the doctors call spontaneous abortion. But at Columbia University in New York, 2,000 spontaneously aborted fetuses have been studied. The findings? In over 50% of the fetuses aborted before the 12th week of pregnancy, there was some chromosomal abnormality. But to the question of what caused that abnormality, there is no answer. Only the certainty that when there is one, the fetus cannot survive.
It started out as a normal XY conception and then doubled its chromosome number.
When the fetus is normal, the cause is even more perplexing. Again, no specific answers. only statistics, which show that women who are over 35, women who smoke or drink or have miscarried before are more at risk. Some of the old beliefs are out. Hormonal imbalance, intercourse, and anxiety are now discounted as causes, but still the myths persist, even among some doctors.
He said, well, I think it's your own anxiety. And
did you believe him?
I didn't know what to believe.
Becky and Jeff Letzler had just had their third miscarriage, and their doctor couldn't tell them why.
I just couldn't believe it happened to us. I mean, we were just so normal, and there's nothing strange.
I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, I don't do anything. I eat right. You picture it happening to somebody who abuses their body.
After each miscarriage, Becky searched for answers. Had she worked too hard? Had she worried too much? Her disappointment led to self-doubt.
I felt like that was part of womanhood, and maybe I wasn't going to be able to fulfill that part and what was wrong with me.
It was harder for Jeff to talk about it, but he was suffering, dreaming about babies disappearing, babies too small to see, and he was anxious about the third pregnancy.
So I'm not going to believe it, until we go the whole way. You disassociate yourself a little bit from it.
Yeah.
Because it happens so many times. You try not to get as emotionally involved.
Becky was emotionally involved. She couldn't forget those baby clothes waiting upstairs in the attic.
Becky, what takes you up to the attic? Sometimes times. I would have been due next week.
It's hard to think about that, isn't it?
Other people's baby showers, maybe. Getting pregnant again. You go back up, and that time you're going up real optimistic. Boy, what do I have for this baby, and what do I still want to get? Just trying to work through it all.
Is part of working through it getting rid of the anger? Why me? Why us?
Yeah, because the only person you're really angry at is yourself. I like to be in control of my situation.
It's that feeling of being so helpless that's hardest to deal with. And that's why there's so much anxiety with the next pregnancy.
You said you're, about 8 or 9 weeks pregnant now?
Maybe 10.
Possibly 10 weeks. And you lost the other pregnancy at 8 weeks?
Dr. Eckenberg is having a sonogram taken, a picture of the baby to reassure the couple.
You can notice this is the uterus here, which is enlarged because the patient's pregnant. If it's really 9 or 10 weeks, you should see more of a formed fetus.
The picture is not reassuring. Either the fetus is younger than expected, or there is trouble.
I was hoping we'd see more than that, but I'm sure you were too. But,
Hospitals are usually where women must first face the fact of their miscarriage, and they are often forced to face doctors and nurses who are less than sympathetic.
I was put on the maternity floor. I mean, the woman that was my roommate had a baby for her feeding times, and the nursery was right outside my room, and it crushed me. I thought there must be a better way. How can they do this?
They go down and they flick the lights, baby time, to feed the baby, and you don't have one.
The worst thing that ever happened to me was right at that point when she looked at me and said, "Don't be upset, you're young. You can have more."
That is exactly what they do not want to hear. It is a significant event, a significant life event. But we're dealing with it as a routine kind of thing because you may have seen particular nights where 2, 3, or 4 people came in with a miscarriage.
The wife may feel abused. The husband is usually ignored.
You really don't know how to cope with it. Here, the husband is supposed to be strong. You're supposed to comfort your wife. But how does she know exactly how I feel? And it's very frustrating when you have to try to be the knight in shining armor and stand by her side And, you know, when do you cry yourself? When do you get your feelings out?
Whenever we were going through the worst times, you try to anticipate what the other one was feeling, and you couldn't do it. No matter how much we care for each other, we go through it a little bit differently.
Life just went on for him as always. And finally I said, this is crazy. You know, please show me that you cared about this baby. And he says, of course I cared, but I had to take care of you.
Carol and Jim Reese are going through their 5th pregnancy. Their first produced 4-year-old Jamie. It was an easy, normal pregnancy, followed by 3 miscarriages.
The last one was really terrible because we had gotten over the hump, the safe point. We had gotten over the point where the other ones had happened. And we thought, oh, you know, we're okay now. And I went out and bought maternity clothes, and that week it did it again. One thing that scared me was I kept thinking, what is my saturation point? Will I find out too late? You know, is the next one going to be the one that pushes me over the brink?
Are you almost afraid to talk about the future, to name the baby, to talk about whether it'll be a boy or a girl?
Not now, but a few months back.
Yeah.
Going back to maybe first, second month of a pregnancy, yes. Because I thought it was very possible the same thing would happen again.
This baby is definitely near term. And what are we going to do now?
Listen to the baby's heartbeat.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Any day now. You're excited, huh?
Everything is fine, but Carol is still anxious. The baby is due in less than a week. Is the loss of a fetus through a miscarriage like a death in the family?
It's a tragedy, but it's not, I feel it's not as nearly as great as if you would lose your child.
We know Jamie, we've lived with her, and you have an object to grieve, but in a way, it's even harder for me to lose the baby that was inside of me because I never had the chance to know the baby.
What's that?
I can start to see the baby right there. Right to my hand. But I'm looking right at the baby's head.
There really is a baby there, huh?
There's a little baby there.
Early in the morning on March 12th, Carol went into labor.
Oh, that's great.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I sure can.
Come on, everybody's pushing with you.
You know it.
Finally, after 3 miscarriages, there was a normal, uneventful delivery. And at 5:44 p.m., another Reese came into the world.
Oh, we got a boy.
Oh, he's beautiful. Yes, I love you. You got a little baby brother. I knew it. I knew it. Yeah. Like a boy.
When this baby is born, will the miscarriage experience then be behind you?
No, no. It's behind you just in time, and in time it has gotten easier to talk about. It has gotten easier to deal with, but it will never go away. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the experience, and I'll never forget the children I lost, because they were my babies.
Next on NBC Magazine, come to the islands of the Caribbean, where kids make baseball gloves out of milk cartons, and Major League Scouts search for the next Clemente or Valenzuela.
Hey, time for some straight talk. Only Ford offers you the closest thing to cost-free driving, and no other car company comes close. For 2 years, from blades to belts to batteries, about all you pay for is gas. On Escort, America's best-selling car, and on the Sharp EXP. Unprecedented coverage, plus hundreds in cash, 100% direct from Ford. Hey, when it comes to quality, Ford delivers.
Here are a few things critics are saying about an extraordinary California wine. Gourmet Magazine.
This French Colombard should not be overlooked.
The San Francisco Examiner.
It perfectly evokes the varietal character.
Paul's Private Guide to Wine.
It is one of California's outstanding white wines.
The French Colombard the experts are praising. The award-winning French Colombard.
of Ernest and Julio Gallo. French Colomba.
We're Exxon. We're Jerry Cunningham, who helped build an offshore oil platform as tall as the Empire State Building. We're Pat McGinley, who helped get it ready to reach deep under the Santa Barbara Channel for American crude. We're Bob Noonan, drilling enough wells on this one platform to meet the energy needs of 500,000 Americans for many years to come. We're more than 100,000 people working on energy. We're Exxon.
In sports, I know that basketball and hockey aren't nearly finished, but George Steinbrenner just had his first tantrum of the spring, and Fernando Valenzuela has grudgingly agreed that a 21-year-old might survive on a mere 350 thou. So it must be time for baseball. Well, like Fernando, many players in the majors these days are from Latin America. How do they get here? Who finds them? We'd like to introduce you to a crusty old coot we call the Pirate of the Caribbean, and to some of his friends. From Puerto Rico, Roberto Clemente, until his tragically early death, may be the greatest Pittsburgh Pirate player ever, and one of the best all-around players of any team the game has ever known. From the Dominican Republic, Julian Javier, flashy second baseman who helped the St. Louis Cardinals through 3 World Series with stunning plays. And from Venezuela, Tony Armas, considered by many the best outfielder playing today. And from Pittsburgh, Howie Hake. Who? Howie Hake, the man who discovered or signed all those stars, and who this winter was back in Latin America looking for more. We joined him in the Dominican Republic. This is a poor country, but if a kid can find an old milk carton and flatten it just so, and another kid can hack away at an old board fashioning a handle, and the kid with the milk carton can carve it in the right places and borrow the head from his sister's doll, suddenly you've got a glove, a bat, a ball, and a game. Every day on about every other street corner in Santo Domingo, you find baseball like this. Kids playing for fun, of course, but also with purpose. You can be sure the kids playing here have all seen or heard about the Julian Javiers who got so good in games like these that they were able to use baseball to break out of this poverty. So they play and they try hard and they dream of their chance. And that chance comes when the scouts from the American big leagues come to town. When Howie Hake comes. He comes out to villages, holds open tryouts. Harder, he says, 60 yards. 6.9 seconds, not fast enough. Looks at pitchers.
Don't throw hard enough. Okay, curva. Curva.
Curveball he asks for.
Okay, any other pitch?
Any other pitch? He's been coming here to scout for 27 years. Speaks fluent Spanglish.
No one can throw.
We're
through for the day. No prospectos.
No prospects that day. But he found a pitcher there last year, and major league stars have come from that same village, Joaquin Andujar. But for today, a 2.5-hour ride back to Santo Domingo. For what? To go to a ball game. Dominican Winter League.
Never throw him out.
Howie Hake goes to maybe 250 games a year. Always searching. Major league scouts combined will sign about 950 young players this year. And how many of those will make it?
19 of them will go to Major League sometime.
Only 19 kids signed this year will end up in the majors?
That's what I'd say, and maybe none of them will be there over 2 or 3 years. Maybe some
350 of you scouts looking for those 19, most of whom won't last more than a couple of years?
Yeah. But if you didn't have the scouts, you wouldn't have anyone.
Why is Latin America such a happy hunting ground?